And now, for a view from the other side of the aisle, we are joined by Illinois House Republican leader Tony McCombie. Representative McCombie, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Republicans weren't really involved in this hemp vote last week. It was a divide between Democrats, but do you believe a majority of Republicans would have supported this?
A lot of the things that we do is to promote public safety and certainly to regulate the issues with Delta 8 was, I thought, a priority for the General Assembly as a whole. But as you discovered, it ended up being an infight between whether it was the mayor of Chicago and Pritzker or the Democrat caucus of Pritzker.
And, you know, Speaker Welch has talked about this rule that he has that if he doesn't have 60 of his members on board a piece of legislation, he doesn't call it. And it would have passed because it would have had some Republicans on there. So what do you make of this rule that no bill goes to the floor unless there are 60 Democrats on it?
It is by far one of the worst unwritten rules that we have in the General Assembly. They have 78 Democrats and we have 40 Republicans. And when you talk to advocates on both sides of an issue, they want bipartisan, bicameral bills. So they don't like this either. And it really does stifle conversations with Republicans when they don't even need to talk to us until they get their 60.
Does this kind of rift between the governor and the speaker open up a lane for Republicans to have conversations with the governor?
Well, luckily, the governor does have conversations with Republicans. We don't always agree, as you can imagine, but certainly does try to listen to our priorities. He does. He's supposed to be the governor of the entire state. His political policies certainly differ than downstate and most of us Republicans at large, but he does want to do what our priorities. He wants to promote economic growth. I would like to think he would like to cut spending. We haven't seen that in the past budgets, but this year he's going to have to tighten the belt. And we're going to oppose any sort of tax increases, and he supports the estate tax, I think. So that's a cut in tax.
And, you know, this is all part and parcel to a $3 billion budget deficit that you're all going to have to deal with. Do you think that it can be closed with cuts alone? And specifically, what are some major cuts that could happen?
No, probably not. You know, one of the things that I hope that the governor and his team looks at is really agency mismanagement. There's some efficiencies there. Oftentimes when an agency isn't functioning, just more money's thrown at it. Oh, there's a shortage in staff, so we just need more staff. And that's true in some cases, but there's also a lot of duplication of processes. So if you really did a real audit on our agencies, I think you would find there's certainly some savings. Now, is that $3 billion? No, absolutely not. But we also need to develop different policies that could actually grow our tax base so we wouldn't have to tax them at a higher rate. So that's really important to our caucus, is structural reform.
Do you believe the governor is going to propose some kind of tax or fee or revenue increase?
Yes, I do. I do believe there's been a lot of conversations with the $144 billion pension debt that we have. You hear about another lockbox with an income tax increase there. You hear the rumors of taxes on service taxes, raising our sales tax, and God forbid, Illinoisans already voted down the progressive graduated tax, but that's still on the table, we're hearing.
And, you know, you've got the mayor of Chicago saying that Springfield needs to come to the city's rescue and CPS's rescue, even though the governor says he doesn't have much of a relationship in Springfield. Do you see lawmakers coming up with any kind of progressive revenue structure that the city could utilize?
Well, it certainly isn't anything that us Republicans are going to support. I'm pretty positive of that. When the mayor can't even take the time to come meet me in my office or schedule a time to meet with me, it certainly doesn't open up conversations to help Chicago with some of their progressive policies. When we're talking about education, they're so far deep in their education hole that they really need to analyze that. And school choice is the only way that that's going to change in Chicago.
And it seems like the mayor hasn't met with a lot of folks in Springfield, so you're not alone there. Finally, Speaker Welch talked about the Bears and, you know, said something interesting that if the Bears were to go with a site like the Michael Reese site, the vacant old hospital site, near Lakeshore Drive, then potentially the state could use some of that road fund money, and there's billions in that fund, to help them with roads and bridges. Is that something you think the General Assembly might play ball with, so to speak?
Well, the road fund has already been robbed this last budget. I think there's a lot of people watching that. There's $5 billion in that, and we have, that second increase that was done in 2019, the distribution to our counties and municipalities and townships across the rest of the state. Most of that second increase was on state highways, but yet IDOT can't get that money spent. They can't get the jobs out. So I really hope to see in this budget from the governor a change of how those funds are distributed around the state. If there's roads that need to be done around a project for economic development and economic growth, then yeah, we could certainly entertain hearing a proposal about that.